club, we are discussing the weather of all things just before
Mm.
we went live. So I'm absolutely thrilled. I was just saying, I don't think I've interviewed you one on one before. I think it's always been a panel. So this is really nice to actually get to talk to
Yeah,
you one on
nice.
one. So, JD Kirk, introduce yourself and tell us about A Killer of Influence.
So, yes, I am JD Kirk, Scottish crime author. My real name is Barry Hutchison. I used to be a children's author, and then I was a science fiction author, and now I write crime. And I started in 2019, the first book in the DCI Jack Logan series, A Litter of
Mm.
Bones. And tomorrow, 12th of September 2024, so just over 5 years later, book 20 in the series comes out, A Killer of Influence. Like the rest of the series, it's set in the Highlands, and it's about a group of social media influencers who go missing while at a convention in Inverness. And the day after that, they all start appearing on live streams on their social media profiles, and they're being held captive and forced to perform for their very lives. So, being the 20th book, I wanted to make it a bit kind of bigger and more of an event than the other books. So there was a lot of exciting things that happen in this book that potentially change the future of the series forever. And I probably
And
won't
that's
I won't tell
probably
you what
all
any
we,
of those things are, obviously.
yeah,
Yeah,
but it's probably all we can say about that.
yeah, yeah.
End of
It is. I would
interview.
say it's probably my favorite book in the series. I think. I mean, I say that about most of
Really?
them. This one, I do think it's. I really enjoyed writing this one. Yeah.
It's something we don't tend to ask authors, really. Do you have a favourite book that you've written?
Mm.
Because it's quite a difficult thing, and you've written a lot of books.
Yeah. So in total, I wrote 180 kids books, I think, in about 10 years, and then 12 of the Space Team sci-fi series, and then four or five other sci-fi books, and so 20 DCI Logan books, five Bob Hoon spin-offs, two DI Heather Filson spin-offs. So whatever that number is, that's how many I've written, and comics and TV stuff and various other things. But yes, quantity over quality. That's my motto.
Absolutely not. Won't have a word of it. Um, Before we went live, you were talking about what you've been up to recently. So you landed yesterday.
You will, yeah. I landed last night. What I thought you were going to say there is what I've been up to recently is what we were talking about immediately before we come on was that someone came to the door, and it was a delivery man delivering a
I
big
would
box of
never have
Lego
asked you
that my
this.
wife doesn't know I'd ordered until that moment. So I'm now scared of leaving this room after the interview's over. So I may have to keep this going like for
I'm going to
hours and
say
hours
just
and hours.
just keep it running while you leave the room, and then we can
Yeah,
hear what's
yeah,
going on.
yeah. Maybe not, maybe not. But yeah, that is my publication day present to myself. That's what I tell myself. But yes, myself and Alex Smith, another crime author who writes the DCI Ket series. He and I were in Serbia. We came back. We flew out on Saturday. We arrived back yesterday, later last night. But because I live in the Highlands, the airport is 2.5 hours
Mm.
drive away. So I got in at 1 o'clock this morning. But we were over there to see the set of our first movie that we have written. We co-wrote a movie. I can't tell you much about the plot or anything at the
Mm.
moment, but we co-wrote a scary movie that that Alexander Gordon Smith, Alex Smith is Alexander Gordon Smith, or Gordon as I know. Gordon had come up with this idea. I wrote it in about 4 days. It took him 6 months to read it, and then we sort of bounced it back and forward and shaped it and got it to a place we liked. And then a producer liked it and put it into production. So we made cameos. The first day of filming was Monday. So they said, "Do you want some cameos?" And we went, "That'd be cool." So it was like an outside scene, and Gordon and I were told that you used to stand over there and walk. When we shout action, you just walk slowly towards the camera and pretend you're talking to each other, just sort of, mouth away. We did that a couple of times, and they said, "Right, we're going to try something different. You stand there and face away from the camera and walk." And then they were like, "Try sitting there and doing nothing, And then they went, yeah, just leave. Just don't be. So all the other extras stayed in, and we just went, yeah, just maybe you sit this one out. So I don't think our career in movies is going to extend into the acting part. But yes, so we've written a script, and it is being filmed as we speak.
I love that. Could they not have you both sitting, reading one of each other's books in the
That would
background?
have been cool. Yeah. That would have been good.
Is it a bit late now?
Probably, but maybe we can CGI it in. Maybe we can ask for that. But yeah, that would have been quite good. We also quite like the idea of, because the main character kind of walks past us, and we like the idea of the main character going into the room, just opening a door to a room, and Gordon and I could be sitting typing, and then just sort of look up, and then he goes, "Oh, sorry, wrong room," and then leaves. But considering we couldn't even sit still well enough to be in the film, I don't think we're going to get a part as big as that.
Trying to find the name of the person. Oh, Jenny Green has asked, when do you find the time to sleep? 1982?
Yeah, not often enough. So 1982 and now like maybe 2040. I'm kind of that's going to be my next sleep schedule, I think.
You are a prolific writer, shall we say? You do write really quickly. So 4 days for the script. Obviously, that's your first draft. How long? We have talked about this before, but just to give anyone who doesn't know an idea, how long do you spend writing each book, and what's the process that you use?
So usually the idea for the next one is coming to me while I'm working on the previous book, if you know what I mean. So when I'm working on a book, I'm writing that one, but I'm also thinking of the next one. So by the time I've finished one, I have a pretty solid idea of what the next one's going to be, and I could, in theory, sort of jump fairly straight into it. I don't plan in a lot of detail most of the time. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't plan very much at all. I generally have an idea with the crime stuff of who done it, who's been dead, who's been dead, who's been killed, who done it,
We do what you meant.
and why. And that's kind of generally enough, and I prefer to sort of find my way there naturally, because it keeps me more interested. There have been times I've planned out more detail than that, and I usually sort of deviate off a bit. But the actual writing stage generally takes me about a month, and I'll write every day. If I'm writing, my books are roughly around 90,000 words. So if I go, that's 3,000 words a day, every day for a month, and that's a first draft finished. And then I'm at the point now when I'm sort of familiar enough with the characters, and I'm at 200 odd books in. I'm kind of confident enough in how a story works that the first draft is not that the first draft isn't the final draft by any stretch of the imagination, but the editing is quite light on it. It's pretty much, it's pretty clean and pretty ready to go. And then I give it to my editor, Hannah Elizabeth, and she fixes all the typos and all the stuff that doesn't make sense, and then we just publish it, basically. So in theory, I could go from start to finish. I could do a book every 45 days, but I'd be dead within a year. So I don't.
Good call. Elsa McGowan wants to know if you've ever used a reader's name in your books. I'm guessing you've used quite a few.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure I have. I've got such a terrible memory for these things. Things that go like, it's a good idea, let's do that, and then I'll forget about it later. I'm sure I have. I know for a fact there's someone that lives not far from me, called George Roger, who's a massive fan of the books, and he appears as a window cleaner in I can't remember what book it is. It's wherever one has the Commando
George the Window
Memorial
Cleaner.
Soldiers. Everyone George Window Cleaners, that's the one that he appears in. So he finds a body, looks through a window and sees a body, and then falls off his ladder in shock. So I definitely shoved him in.
Lindsay Lynn wants to know, she says, can I ask why you have started publishing with Canelo, as you are a titan of the self-publishing world?
Yeah, I haven't really started publishing with Canelo as such. All I publish with Canelo is the print editions. So when you're self-publishing, it's very easy to get your book on Amazon. It's very easy to get that book on Kindle. It's very easy, thanks to Audible, to get the book on audio. Print is more difficult. So Amazon does print on demand, but that means you can only buy the print editions through Amazon. We did work with a printer and a distribution company. So a printer called CPI, and we would get big print ones done of kind of 3,000, whatever. Then they would go to the distributor, Book Source, are based in Glasgow, and then they deliver through gardeners and all that stuff. But it was about 1% of my company's income came from print, and about 30% of the hassle came from print. So we decided that we would partner up with Canelo, or Canelo, I never know how to pronounce it.
I've never once said Canelo until tonight. I normally say Canelo.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. Whatever it is, we partnered up with them. They're doing the print stuff for the DCI Logan series and hopefully the other series too. But they have no sort of editorial control. That's all still done by us. So I still decide how often the books go out and you know what they're about and all that stuff. And Canelo just handle the print sales into shops and all that stuff. So still the books are still self-published, but we've outsourced to the print side of it, which is one of the beauties of being self-published, is it gives you that flexibility to do what you want. You know, so we hold on to all rights, and then we can decide what rights we want to put out to different places.
Yeah, it sounds like a really good business model. Caroline,
I will say,
sorry, go
very
on.
quickly to that, I will say, because when I work with sort of traditional publishers, it was literally they would take all rights to everything, you know. So you would sign a deal and then say, right, we have film rights and TV rights and merchandising rights and all that stuff. Doing it ourselves, we've got a merchandise store that people can buy T-shirts and mugs and all that stuff inspired by the books. We're working with a company called Be Here to do full cast recording versions of the audiobooks, so they have actors playing all the parts, and Angus King is still doing the narration part, but it's different characters' voices, and we'll release them like one episode at a time. So it really lets you be really flexible and experiment with what you do with the rights, rather than just hand them all over to a publisher and hope they do something with them.
Sorry, it was Caroline Burner asked, will there be any more Heather Filson books? Now, on your Amazon page, I noticed that the Heather Filson series, 2 books at the moment, the one that got away is Heather Filson 1, and you wanted more readers to know about that one. You wish more readers knew. So Caroline wants to know if there will be more in that series.
Yes, I'm working on the 3rd one, which is called Never Brought to Mind. And that's from Auld Lang Syne, the song My Old Acquaintance Be Forgotten, Never Brought to Mind. And it's set at kind of run up to New Year and on New Year's Eve. And that will be, it should be out on the 1st of January.
Fantastic. Okay, so David Hewing's asking about the humour in your books. He wants to know where you get the inspiration from. And the humour, I think you've come up with some of I've heard from your books some of the best swear words there are, which I won't be repeating on camera.
No, probably best not. It's interesting actually, because when I did the Space Team books, all the swearing in that is censored. Like they have a translation chip in their head that allows them to talk to the people of different, you know, alien races and whatever, and it censors all the swearing. And then for especially the Hoon books, but the general J.D. Kirk books, the swearing is off the charts. You know,
just a wee bit.
Yeah. So the humour bit. I mean, they weren't supposed to be funny. They were supposed to be deadly serious. And I tried writing the first book, A Litter of Bones. I spent, you know, I took 10, 15 attempts to get started on that book, and just writing that first page, and it just wasn't working at all. And I would scrap it and try again, and scrap it and try again. I just wasn't getting into it. And then on like the 15th time, I wrote the opening line, the total collapse of Duncan Reed's life began with a gate in the arse end of nowhere. And when I wrote that, I just suddenly realised what the tone of it was, and it would have that sort of humour to it. And after that, it became really easy to write. It was just, I think, I find any kind of story, whether it's a film, whether it's a book, whatever, without some sort of suggestion of humour in it, really difficult to get into. Because I think humour is everywhere, really. My dad and my sister and I always say, and it makes us sound terrible, but we've never laughed together so much as we did at my mum's funeral. And it's because of that. I think it's a way that it's like a release valve. It's that thing of that difficult situation, and you use humour to get through it. And, you know, I have friends that work for the ambulance service who've seen some horrendous things. And the only way they can get through is by having a sense of humour about it, you know, and they're not laughing at the people in these terrible situations. They're laughing together, and that's allowing them to deal with these horrible things. And I thought it could be much the same for the police. The things they have to deal with, the way they get through it is humour. So the humour mostly comes from kind of the character interactions and the occasional situation that some of them find themselves in.
There's a bit right at the beginning of A Killer of Innocence, which is Palmer is kind of dotted about looking at different things, and the tents are up, and there are lots of bodies being dug up, and Shona Maguire walks out of the tent, sees Palmer, and walks into the next one just to get away from him. And I was howling. I mean, that's kind of page 2 or 3. And I thought, that's it. I'm really going to enjoy this.
Yeah, it's that. Well, that's what I enjoy about writing them is how these relationships develop. You know, so Jeff Palmer is the head of the sort of scene of crime forensics division, and he's always sort of lusting. He's lusting over everyone, really. Any woman that comes within reach. But he's got a particular interest in poor Shona, and I think it's the bit when she comes out and she's absolutely traumatized by what she's seen in there. And she knows she's going to be traumatized by what she sees in the next one. But when he starts making a beeline for her, she's like, "Nah, I'm just going in here and I'm dealing with whatever horrendous thing I'm about to deal with, rather than have a conversation with him." Sort of thing. So I like that how that sort of develops over time. She was, and it's a situation I think a lot of. I mean, you'll know this better than me, but a lot of women find themselves as having to be polite to quite creepy men at times. You know, it's that thing of like, I have to humour you to do. And so over time, sort of with the help of DCI Logan, she's started to become more confident and been able to go, "No, I'm not interested in you or talking to you," you know, and been able to do that thing. So it's quite fun just having the characters develop in that way, and it's interesting for me to see, you know, what direction they end up going, because a lot of time they surprise me with what they do, you know.
I think it's really funny to kind of see that she's that confident now to just mask back up and into the next tent. Yeah. She'd rather be with a deep.
And it's not afraid of showing.
What I'm looking for decomposing. Body than him.
Showing that back to him, of kind of going like making it clear she's just not interested, and
You do have to get quite good, I think, at managing your facial expressions, because my face says whatever I'm thinking. I've been told I've got a face with subtitles if I'm displeased with someone.
Sometimes that's good, though. You know, sometimes I think that maybe we should all be a bit more like that.
Yeah, I just work from home now. It's easier.
It's just safer all around.
Safer option. Kylie Perry wants to know if Logan's team is based on real people that you know, or just made up as you went along. Or I'd add to that, are they a composite of different people?
I would say that they're all one element of my personality, split into different people, I think. Mostly Tyler, unfortunately, who's constantly getting himself into trouble. So yeah, they're all some element of me, I think, and or me, or how I see myself progressing. So like, you know, a few years ago, I was absolutely like the tech genius in my family. So Hamza, like DS Hamza Khalid, who's on the team, he's the tech guy, and that's kind of like I was a few years ago. And then like Ben. DI Ben Ford is hopeless with technology, and I can already see that's the direction I'm headed in. You know, like I'll pick up the TV remote now and I'll look at it for about 5 seconds, trying to remember what the buttons do. I'm going like, what one is it again? And then I'll press something, and it's like, oh no, I've pressed the wrong thing, and now I don't know. So and Logan's a bit in between with that, and then Tyler's constantly tripping over his own feet or saying the wrong thing or whatever. And so I think these are all different aspects of my own personality rather than anyone externally. That's what I'm claiming anyway, in case anyone tries to sue me.
Yeah, nice caveat. I like it.
Yeah.
Chaz Kemp, sorry. When writing your books, do you hear them as Angus narrates them, or do you have your own voices in your head?
I don't. Well, this is interesting. My wife and I talk about this a lot. I don't have any voices in my head. I don't have any.
Oh, you don't? No, of course you don't.
I can't see anything. I've got aphantasia, which means I can't see pictures, but I don't hear anything either. Like I don't have an internal monologue. I don't. It blows my mind, the idea that people can hear music in their head. Like I can think of the words of a song, but I can't. There's nothing. I can't. So I don't hear voices. I don't see characters. I don't. It's all just words that I think of and then write down. So it's really interesting when people say, "Oh, it's like watching a movie or whatever." When I read, it's like a description of the Highlands. They go, "Oh, it was like I was there and I was seeing it," and I go, "Oh, look at you!" That just doesn't happen for me at all.
I can turn the music up and down in my head. There's normally at least one song going.
Yeah,
but
see, that's
I don't
weird.
picture characters really.
See, that sounds like I don't know, like either like a superpower or I don't know, a form of mental illness. I don't know what it like.
Somewhere in the middle.
Able to go, well, yeah, I've got sound in my head. It's like
I can definitely. There's always a song going.
Everyone tells me they can. It's just I appear to be unable to do it. And my wife says she's constantly got an inner monologue. So I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I've got all of that.
It's an odd thing. Yeah.
Apparently, there aren't enough hours in the day for the words that want to come out of my mouth, so it's constantly just running through my head.
It's just buzzing around in your head, yeah. Although I do have fun. Like it's a bit. I don't know. I was asked before once that where do you get ideas from, and I said it's a bit like having a load of radios in a room tuned to different stations. But I'm not hearing anything. I'm just thinking it. I'm just thinking, like what. But there's no. I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just like I don't know how my mind works.
Can you control it though? Can you zone in and out of the radios?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, mostly, yeah. But yeah, I worry that if I think about it too much, it'll all just stop working. I'll just fall over like Pinocchio and just lie there like a wooden boy. I don't know why I went into Pinocchio metaphor there. I don't know what that was about.
Why not? Go with it. I think I want to go back to what you were saying earlier about when you were trying to write the first book and you were kind of struggling with it until you stopped trying to control it and just let the voice run. I think
I think that was it. Yeah.
Must be such an important thing when you're finding your style and developing your voice is not to get in your own way.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's there's lots of things you can control. Like I knew, okay, I want to write a crime novel, and I was quite analytical about it, and I went, okay, I have this idea for a story. What kind of crime novel is successful? What kind of characters are do people like in crime novels? And you can do all that. But your writing style, you can't fake that. The way you actually write, that's the bit that you can't fake. And I was trying to do that at the start. I was trying to go, no, this has to be like a gritty, serious, proper, grown-up police procedural, and that's how it's going to be. And trying to force that, that's the bit that didn't work. And then as soon as I went, this is how I write, this is what, and then that just worked. And then I could do all the rest. So all the stuff I had sort of figured out in terms of who's it going to be about, what they're going to do, that then slotted into place around the whole overall style of it.
Patsy was saying, so Patsy's Patricia Forsyth, she's one of our admins, massive supporter of Scottish crime fiction, and has a book on leather and different things going on.
Of course, yeah.
See you on Friday, so she's looking forward to saying hello on Friday.
Nice. Yes, you won't be able to Scotland. What was that?
You won't be able to miss her. She's generally wearing the most fabulous crime shoes.
Nice, okay.
And something generally bright, colourful. And she's an absolute joy. She just kind of charges about the place getting things done. You just
Nice.
whirlwind is
Nice.
that say.
Donna Moffat was there last year. I saw Donna there last year. So yes, that'd be great. Yeah, my Bloody Scotland crime festival in Stirling on Friday. So I'm opening it with Rachel Abbott. We're doing a sort of a small panel with two people. Is that a panel? Two people? A duo?
Yeah.
So we're talking about I don't know, crime fiction, presumably. I don't know, I haven't looked into it in much detail. I tend to wing these things. I think you can over prepare.
Yeah.
People say you shouldn't over prepare for them. So the way I look at that is don't do any preparation whatsoever and just hope for the best.
Have you even got time to do preparation?
Probably not, actually.
No.
Yeah, that's the point.
Not
I mean, although I did just buy a 5,000 piece Lego set, so if I've got time for that, I've probably got time to do a bit of homework. But yeah.
What's the Lego set?
It's the Nightmare Before Christmas set. So my cover story is that I'm going to do it with my daughter. We're gonna build it together. She has zero interest in Lego.
But really, you're just going to sneak it into your office and hope your wife hasn't opened
absolutely.
the box.
Yeah, I mean, I know she will have because Lego makes a very distinctive sound when it arrives, and she's got to the point she can recognise a Lego box at 100 paces because like the shape of them. So she's like, "That's Lego, isn't it?" And it's like, "No," and then you move the box and it goes. She goes, "Yeah, that's definitely Lego."
You'll know if she's annoyed with you because when you go to get out of bed in the morning, you'll stand on a piece.
Yeah,
and you'll be like, where has that come from? And it'll just happen every day. 2 pieces, 5 pieces.
And Jack Skellington impaled in the sole of my foot. Yeah.
Looking at you, bedside table, watching you sleep. The comments are just really flying. Inez Heikkinen, you have fans in Finland who actually know that Tyler was almost hit by a train.
Nice, yeah. There's you get a t-shirt now that says that. I was almost hit by a train. And a mug. There you go.
T-shirt and a mug. I like that. Donna's leaving her house at 6:15 a.m. so she doesn't miss your panel. So no pressure, but you better be worth it.
Oh, bless her. Donna, I can't promise anything, but I'll do my best. Rachel's
amazing as well, isn't she?
Rachel will be great, yeah. So even if I'm rubbish, worth it to come and see Rachel.
Rachel was one of my first interviews when we started doing the live interviews of Book Club. Yeah, we did a pre-recorded one and I was terrified and nervous. And I looked back at it a while ago and terrible camera, big frizz ball hair, really, really not that dissimilar to now actually, but really not prepared for that kind of thing. But she's written so many books and, knows the industry the way you do. I think you two will be fantastic talking together.
Yeah, well, the first panel event, well, not the first one, the second panel event I ever did, but the first one I ever did at London Book Fair was with Louise Ross, and Rachel was on the panel as well. And I was still science fiction author at that point. And I was talking to LJ Ross, and she'd said I'd had the idea for Litter of Bones at that point, and I sort of mentioned it to her. And she must hear that, 100 times a day. LJ Ross be like, "Go, I've got an idea for a crime novel," because she is. I mean, she's the second. There's this chart came out this week of sort of Kindle Unlimited most read authors in the UK in the last 10 years, and she's second after J.K. Rowling, and that's
wow.
So I was sick, which I was quite happy about, but she's second, so. She's huge, and I'd said to her, I've got this idea for a crime novel, and she was both her and her husband were so encouraging and supportive and that was in the sort of October, and then in the April I was doing the London Book Fair with her and Rachel, and I knew that Louise was going to be there, and they'd been so nice that I didn't want to let her down, which is why I started writing A Litter of Bones. Wow. Why so that I could at least tell her that it was underway. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, I'm doing it, I'm writing this book. So I just didn't want to disappoint her, so her and her husband, because they were so lovely. So so I've got LJ Ross to thank for going into crime fiction. That first panel, it was Louise, myself, and Rachel.
So when it comes to kind of all of the other things that you have to do as an author, so you've got an author page, and there's all the different social media channels and sites to look at. And you have got more reviews than anyone I've ever seen, I think.
That's nice. Yeah.
So you're in the tens of thousands on some books.
Yeah. I think the highest is 30,000. I think.
Yeah, there was definitely at least one with 30,000, which is huge.
Yeah.
But it all starts from, the first post, the first interview, the first book release. How do you did you just kind of go with the flow? Did you have a plan for building this empire that is JD Kirk?
There was never a great plan. I don't plan things in any detail really, but I always knew. So from when I was doing kids' books, as a children's author, you have to do a lot of like visits to schools and a lot of festivals and a lot of library visits and talks there and all. And it's quite a big jump to go, because a lot of people become authors so they can sit in a room and never speak to anyone else again for the rest of their lives. And then you go, right now you need to sit in front of 500 people and talk about your book. And the publishers really wanted you to go on, pitch it and go like, right, this is why you should read this book. It's great. And I hated that. I just couldn't do it. So I went on and I just had a bit of a laugh with the kids. And we talked about books in general and talked about, what they liked and what they were scared of, because I was writing horror at that point. So what's things you're scared of? And I would talk about things that I was scared of. And it became evolved into a sort of stand-up for kids, really, like a stand-up comedy thing. But it was really about that two-way communication. And that's what I've always since then, that's what I've always done. It's about, for me, it's never about selling a book to someone. It's about building a relationship with your readers. And it's about, trying to respond to as many emails as you can and trying to respond to comments and just being part of that two-way communication thing. So I try to build a community around the books rather than try and sell the books, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's how that's the general approach I've taken to it all. So I don't do TikTok because that feels very sort of performative in one way, and it's like, hey, this is me. Whereas like Facebook is better. I'm doing Substack now, and just that it's things where you can have a conversation rather than be broadcasting. You know what I mean?
And you can have a laugh and make it enjoyable.
What was that?
You can have a laugh and make it enjoyable.
That's it, absolutely. Yeah, it should be. And it's, can I just share my love of other authors that I've read and all that stuff. But like to this now, where this would be, nowhere near as good if it wasn't for people putting comments and questions. And that's what drives the whole thing, really. So, it's been about community rather than sort of sale, pushing buy my book on people.
Do you have well, I know you do, but the inside jokes with your fans, little Easter eggs that that they'll pick up on?
There's lots of things. I mean, Tyler nearly been hit by a train and things like that being one of them. And just there's lots of general little, because they know the characters really well. There's certain things, like D.I. Ford with his biscuits, and there's like a running square sausage gag in the Hoodin books when he goes to London and tries to order square sausage. And square sausage is a kind of very Scottish thing. It's like a sort of like a square sort of. I mean, it's I've got a little notebook there. It's sort of like that, but like a sausage meat. But when he goes to London, people assume he means like a cube of sausage, and no one understands. So it's this sort of running gag that goes through it. Lots of little things like that are the kind of long-term readers will pick up on.
Claire McBride's saying that she loves how you interact with all of the readers.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Like it's as much fun for me as anyone else. It's that because most of the people I talk to generally only exist in my head, so it's quite nice to talk to real people as well.
Do you ever find yourself thinking out loud as you're walking around and getting weird looks from people?
Yeah, I've caught myself walking down like Fort William High Street, literally saying lines out loud that I've thought of, almost having conversations between two characters because I can't hear it in my head. Like the only way I can hear it is by saying it. So I find myself muttering. My wife kind of laughs at me because when I'm sitting writing, quite often I'll speak the lines I'm saying, or I'll pull faces that go in time with what's happening, or I'll make noises or something that's doing. So she finds that hilarious.
You are really busy, as somebody said before. When do you find time to sleep? But you have a wife, a family. You travel when you need to for work. You write all of the time. How are you juggling all of this?
I mean, I
Because there
think one
can't be like a
thing we
set week for you. You must have to roll with whatever's going.
Yeah, fairly flexible. But I mean, aren't we all doing that though all the time? It's not like I'm doing anything particularly special. Everybody watching this is juggling their life, on a daily basis, and you make time for the things that are important, and there are lots of things. Myself and Alex Smith were talking about this. There's lots of things that I would love to do that I know I can't do right now because something else would have to fall by the wayside. And I don't want to give up any of the other things that I'm doing. I don't want to give up my writing time or give up my family time or give up my Lego time. That's not getting
Very
sacrificed.
important.
So there are things that, well, that would be lovely to do, I can't do those right now. So you just prioritize. And I say that's what literally everyone in the world is doing every day. You do the things you can, and you just don't worry too much about the things that you can't.
Yeah, I think the key is what you said about it being right now. Can't do that right now, so
Yeah,
you're
absolutely.
choosing what you want to get done now.
And I mean, when I wrote my first book, I was working for the Highland Council at the time, and I wrote it in like 15-minute snippets while sitting in a van, and I'd have like 15-minute break, so I'd write like 300-400 words. But that 300 400 words, every day or every couple of days, whatever, adds up, and eventually you have a book. So it's a lot of people will want to write a book and they go, well, I can't set aside 3 hours a day to write, but you don't have to. You just write out a little bit. And I was writing that on my phone. I was writing that in notebooks, and then cobbling it all together later on. So yeah, you just do what you can do, and don't stress too much about the rest.
Jenny Green said, other than laughing at you, what does your wife do to support you? Probably quite a lot.
Yeah, basically, yeah, keeps me alive and just generally maintain. Yeah, she's been. I said I won an award for my first children's book, and I said then that like without her sort of support throughout all this, I couldn't have done it. Because there were times writing the children's books, when we were completely broke, and it would have been very very easy for her to say, "Go and get a proper job," which pays money. But she never did. She knew this was what I were kind of wanted to do, and was always very supportive. But from a practical point of view, she helps kind of run the publishing company, so deals with a lot of the sort of behind the scenes stuff.
Nikki Johnson wants to know, are there going to be more spin-off books after the DCI Logan books finish? Oh, we're not finishing. I fully expect I'll finish A Killer of Influence before tomorrow is over, and I need something else to look forward to. Yeah, you are going to fly through this book. There's no other way of reading it.
Yeah. There's another Heather Filson coming soon. I'm doing a couple of other projects that are coming out end of this year and start of next year. And it's that thing again I said earlier about self-publishing giving you flexibility to do different things. So I'm doing an Audible original, which is coming out later this year, which is not connected to the DCI Logan universe. And I'm doing a book with Bookouture, partners up with them on something else as well. And then between those, there's the D.I. Filson book, and then yes, there are lots of other plans for the DCI Logan universe. We're not getting rid of them that easily.
You seem to be pretty good at remembering things. Normally, when an author comes on, because they're so much into the current book, they can't really remember what happened in the last one. The one that they come for interview about.
Well,
and
my little bit
people.
I said at the start, of the script, that's all I remember about it. So don't try and probe me any. I can't. That's why I said, and I can't tell you any more than that. When I said that, I literally mean I can't tell you any more than that because I don't remember it.
One of the things that I won't mention the scene, but Logan makes a promise. And I always think when you see that on TV and in books, that you kind of, that the cop can't be making promises. They can't. But you also know sometimes they're going to. And it made me wonder how much you kind of have to take the actual procedure into account and how much you can kind of play with it, because people are only human, you know. People can be real sticklers for characters only behaving in a certain way. No idea where that came from, but it comes up.
Don't know what went on there, but anyway, that distracted me completely. Well, that's one of the things that kept me from writing crime fiction to start with, was I thought, I need to do loads of research into how police procedure works and what's involved, and then eventually realised that nobody cares, because police procedure is really boring. Well, hang on. When I say nobody cares, some people really care. Some people really, really care, but most people don't care how accurate it is, because there's a difference between believable and accurate. And if it's believable, that's enough for 99% of people. And so that's it. So if you go, it's believable, and I go, okay, this is a flawed individual who's making these decisions within the confines of the rules of his job. Do I believe that would happen? Yes, that's fine. People will go along with it. If you're doing something that's completely out of the ordinary for that character's personality, then they probably won't go along with it. But if it's within, how they would be expected to behave, regardless of whether it's in a lot, it sits within the rules of the police or whatever, then they'll go along with it. If you were to just focus on being accurate to police procedure, you would have the dullest novel that had ever been written in the history of the world. Because police procedure is boring. It's tedious. A murder investigation is several hundred people usually working across multiple different departments, and a lot of them are just uniformed officers going door to door, knocking on 200 doors, going, "Did you hear anything last night?" "No." "Okay, what's your name?" And that does not make for compelling fiction. There's no murder investigation unit in the UK where 5 people solve all the crimes. But essentially, every crime fiction book, that's how it works. It's a small team, because you can't care about 200 people. You can only care about 4, 5, 6 people. So that's why crime novels work that way, and crime TV shows and all that stuff. It's not accurate, but it's believable.
I think, that is the thing I would completely agree with. You don't mind giving up some accuracy as long as it's believable. The second it's not believable,
And people want to be entertained as well. That's the thing. People read a book because they want it to be entertaining. If they want to read about police procedure, there's loads of non-fiction books that they can read, which will very accurately take them step by step through an investigation. But crime fiction novels massively outsell those books, hundreds to one, because most people want to be entertained and have characters they can root for, regardless of whether those characters sometimes make mistakes or not, and probably even more so as a result of them making mistakes.
Leslie Lloyd has said she wants story, not accurate, boring procedure, so completely agreeing with us. Claire McBride says if she was ever on Mastermind, her specialist subject would be all of your Logan and Hume books, because she loves them all.
Wow.
So it sounds like if you ever get stuck with a detail that you need, just drop her a message.
Because there's times I've thought, that character even alive? Did they die 2 books ago? I did a quiz about my first horror series that I wrote for HarperCollins. I went to a school in Edinburgh. There were 6 books in the series, and there was a girl there who'd read all the series multiple times, but she'd read the first book 143 times, or like some ridiculous, she was obsessed with it. She designed her own T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. Amazing. And the librarian said, "We're going to do a quiz." This was on stage. We're going to do a quiz. The librarian prepared 10 questions. And it was like, we'll do a quiz and it'll ask you about, and you write down your answer and all that stuff. So 10 questions, and I got 3 right. Just got 7
3?
Yeah, 3 right. And to be honest, I was guessing she got 10 out of 10.
Of course
she got 10 out of 10, but I got 3. So I think by the end, they weren't even convinced that I'd written them. They were kind of thinking it's just some random bloke was wandered in and taking credit for these books. But yeah, 3 out of 10. So not great.
That's just made me think of that. The poor guy who ended up on the BBC. He'd gone for a job interview and he ended up on the news.
Yeah, that's it. It was great. Guy something, was it, or Gus? I can't remember.
I wish I could remember his name. I really can't think.
Yeah.
One thing, I know we're going to run out of time. We've got 10 minutes left, but one of the things that I noticed was that you don't know what the JD stands for in JD Kirk. So how did you settle on those initials?
I just liked how they sounded. Like it was literally, I
They do
went,
sound good.
right, yeah, JD, it just works well together.
Yeah.
JD Kirk, because I'd looked at what was selling really well in crime fiction, and a lot of it was, so like LJ Ross was like two initials and a short surname, and I thought, right, Kirk is partly from James T. Kirk from
I was just
Star
going to
Trek.
ask.
I'd just come from doing science fiction set in space, and they have, the ship was called the Shatner, and so Captain Kirk was kind of involved in that. So I thought Kirk's a good one. It's quite a Scottish word as well. Kirk, it's a Scottish word for church. So and then JD just sort of flowed together. So people have suggested Jack Daniels, JD, JAYDEE. My daughter suggested that, which I quite liked. John Doe, which is the name for an unidentified body, and so John Doe, I quite like that. But yes, I'm leaving it open to interpretation.
Lindsay Lynn said, Scrubs fan?
What was that?
Scrubs fan. Lindsay Lynn said, are you a Scrubs fan?
Oh, yeah, is that, well, I remember watching some of the first series stuff. I really enjoyed it.
JD
I didn't have time.
His friend, Turk.
Yeah.
So
Kirk,
actually,
yeah.
JD Kirk.
Maybe JD Turk, yeah. Well, maybe there was something subliminal going on there. I think I only saw the first series, and maybe not even all of that. And I enjoyed it, though. It was good. But I find that one thing is I don't have a lot of time to do is watch TV, sadly.
Yeah, I tend to rewatch things, so I never watch anything. If you ask me anything current, not a clue. Ask me questions about Friends, and I'm your woman.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same for like He-Man and the Masters of the Universe from 1984.
Nice.
But much beyond that, I'll struggle with.
Yeah, I'd be right there alongside you with She-Ra, probably.
Yeah, He-Man and She-Ra, yeah.
But who do you read? How much time do you get to read, and who do you read when you get a chance?
Well, my problem is that when I'm writing in a particular genre, so I'm writing crime fiction, I don't read crime fiction because I'm really worried that I'm going to subliminally copy something.
Yeah.
Just and there's the idea of going, because once something's milling around in there, you go 6 months later, you go, I've got a great idea for a line or whatever, and you're going to write it down, and it turns out that you've read it 6 months previously. So I don't read a lot of crime fiction when I'm writing crime. I find myself having less and less time to read, which I hate. I'm trying to get more back. I'm trying to get back into reading more. But the way that I always kickstart my getting back into reading is by going back to Terry Pratchett, who was kind of my first real love of, as an author. He was the first author I became addicted to, I think, is Terry Pratchett. So whenever I've had a break from reading, then I go back to Pratchett, and then he gets me back into it, and then I'll go and explore all kinds of stuff. But so that's where I'm at the moment. I'm back to Pratchett.
Kaz Maston who's watching and said hello. Hi, Kaz. Was horrified that I hadn't read any Terry Pratchett. She bought me my first one, and I did start it, and I was really enjoying it. But I read for the interviews, so it's how do you find time for things?
Yeah. That's it. It's really difficult. Yeah, I mean, it's when I'm writing loads, it's like I can go right. I can sit down and read, or I can get another chapter done. And I know, because I know, like this, this new book comes out tomorrow, and I know by 1 o'clock tomorrow I will get emails saying, when's the next one out? So it's like, okay, right, gotta keep going, get the next one done. Got to get the next one done, before there's a meeting. So it becomes more and more difficult. But I wanted to try and just take my foot off the gas a little bit and give myself more time to read and generally just chill out a little bit.
Yeah, it does sound like you need to. I don't know. You seem pretty happy though at the speed you're running at. I'd love to say, calm down, put your feet up, but actually, you seem pretty content with where you are.
Quite far ahead at the moment, really. Like I've got two of the books that I've got coming out are both written and done. And yeah, the main point this year's been rough because my son had an accident in January that sort of messed up the whole year and put me behind. So it's been quite a stressful year. So I'm kind of thinking, right, I've managed to hit all my deadlines and get everything done. So I'm gonna take a bit of not a break as such, but I'm gonna slow down for a month or two, and sort of recharge after the nightmare that has been this year.
Yeah, I don't think anyone can keep going at full pelt. As much as you like to get things done, you can't keep that.
I think. I mean, saying that, it is a bit of an addiction. Like Alex Smith and I were away. We had an idea for a comic that we want to write together, and we sort of planned that out a bit. And then on the flight back over to Amsterdam, I was sitting by myself. He was sat up front, and he fell asleep, and I felt compelled to write the first 6-7 pages of the comic because it was like, well, I've got this because it's in my head. I need to get it out of my head, and the way I can do that is by writing it down.
We have got 3 minutes left.
Good grief, is that an hour? Is that going already?
Yeah, almost there. Do you want to give us a recap of A Killer of Innocence from whatever you can remember? But then let everybody know what else they need to go and read as well.
Okay, so Killer of Influence is the 20th book. You can start at book 1 if you want. You don't have to. They are all standalone mysteries. That's the word I was trying to think of. So you can jump straight into this one if you want. You'll probably get more out of it if you read the earlier books first. There are 19 of them. Don't feel obliged to read all of them. But if you read a handful of those, you'd have a better understanding of who the characters are. But feel free to jump in this one and let me know what you think. You could also try the Bob Hoon spin-off series, which is sort of thrillers. They've been described as Jack Reacher meets Trainspotting, or the D.I. Filson series, which is police procedural but slightly darker and a bit slightly different to the Logan series. So take your pick, really.
We've got one final question here. Michelle Dunn. Hello, Michelle. Where can I buy a full set of B.K. Malone books? When I tried to purchase them, I think it was book 3 that was unavailable.
So B.K. Malone is one of my kids' series, published by Little Tiger Press, I think. So I don't know. I think they should be available. Maybe they might have been for reprinting. So it'd be worth trying again. They may have been doing a reissue. So it'd be worth trying again, or go to Little Tiger Press's website and email them and say, where do I get it?
Yeah, what's going on? I want this book.
Yeah, I think it
sure
was 10 years ago.
Happy to oblige.
It was a little while ago, so I don't remember much about it. It was a good fun series to write, though.
Well, thank you to everyone who has watched tonight. We've had loads of questions that we've not managed to get to, but thank you everyone for joining in. Thank you so much. A full hour of you all to ourselves.
Yeah.
So
waffling nonsense, yeah.
Best kind of evening. And best of luck at bloody Scotland.
Thank you very much. Yes, I'll say hello to everyone. Hopefully, and if people want to watch it but can't come to Stirling, if you go to the Bloody Scotland website, you can get a digital ticket for like $4.99 or something, and you can watch it online, watch the live streamed chat.
Excellent. We'll find a link for that and pop it in the group as well.
Cool.
Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back and talk to us again about future books.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime. Yeah, more than happy to.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me, Sam.
And we are off.